Welcome to our channel, where we explore the 10 facts about Salvador Dalí. Before we get started, be sure to give that like button a little love and hit subscribe to stay in the loop for future exciting content. 1. He believed he was the reincarnation of his dead older brother. Dalí's parents had another son named Salvador, who tragically died as an infant before Dalí was born 9 months later. Young Dalí grew up in the shadow of this deceased older brother who shared his name. Dalí's parents believed their new son was the actual reincarnation of the brother they lost. They went so far as to take him to visit his own grave and told him he was the first Salvador reborn. This idea resonated with Dalí, who truly believed he was living the second life of his dead sibling. He felt enormous pressure from his parents to live up to the potential of this brother and carry on his legacy through his art. This spiritual burden haunted Dalí well into adulthood. 2. Dalí hardly slept. Dalí followed a strict regime of only sleeping a few hours a night when he slept at all. He saw sleep as a waste of time that kept him from painting. Dalí's most famous sleep technique was known to explore the hypnagogic cycle of sleep. He would hold a key in his hand and place a metal plate on the ground. As he drifted off, the key would fall and clang on the plate, waking him up suddenly. This allowed Dalí to repeatedly enter the hypnagogic state between wakefulness and sleep. He would experience vivid dreamlike visions and associations, which he tried to capture immediately in his work. Dalí also reportedly spent many nights half-sleeping while perched on a chair with a spoon balanced on the arm under his wrist. If he fell fully asleep, the spoon would clatter and wake him. The artist would frequently work continuously for days without any real rest or break. His bizarre sleep habits fueled his surrealist visions and creations. 3. He hosted wild parties with famous guests. Dalí and his wife Gala were legendary party hosts, throwing lavish events at their seaside home in Port Ligat, Spain. Their exclusive guest list attracted movie stars like Jack Warner and Igor Stravinsky, artists like Pablo Picasso, and celebrity bullfighters. The parties were surreal affairs filled with extravagant decor and costumes. Dalí would greet guests wearing unconventional outfits, once even donning a deep-sea diving suit. He would stage elaborate scenes and stunts to shock and delight his celebrity crowd. 4. He had an unusual hobby: snail collecting. Dalí was fascinated by the mathematical spiral patterns of snail shells. He would collect interesting snails to study their shells and even use them in his artwork at times. 5. Dalí bought Castle Pubal for Gala and made it her retreat. In an extravagant display of wealth and eccentricity, Salvador Dalí purchased the Castle Pubal in Catalonia for his wife Gala in 1969, when he was at the peak of his fame and fortune. He spent lavishly to renovate and furnish it to Gala's discerning tastes. However, Dalí imposed the strange condition that he could only visit the castle if Gala invited him in writing. This reflected the highly unusual power dynamic between them, where Gala often called the shots. Supposedly, she would only invite him once a year, entertaining Dalí as an honored guest rather than her husband with rights to his home. The castle became Gala's retreat for trysts with young lovers during her later years, while Dalí lived mainly at their Port Ligat residence. To most, this arrangement would seem dysfunctional or even masochistic. But for Dalí, the castle represented a dramatic act of love and generosity, albeit in his own eccentric way. 6. He turned to theater, design, and film later in his career. While best known for painting, Dalí branched out creatively in his later years. He explored set design, wrote screenplays, collaborated on films, and even designed the Chupa Chups Lollipop logo. He explored set design, writing the screenplay for the films Chaos and Creation and Babawo, as well as designing the dream sequence for Alfred Hitchcock's Spellbound. His set designs included the ballet Bacchanal for the New York Metropolitan Opera, the nightclub decor for the Copacabana in New York, and a dreamlike set for a production of Tristan and Isolde in Rome. 7. Dalí collaborated with Walt Disney. Dalí's enthusiasm for pop culture led him to approach Walt Disney in 1945 to produce an animated film inspired by Fantasia. Their project Destino featured surrealist images set to Mexican folk songs, but it was shelved after 8 months of production. Though never completed in Dalí's lifetime, his vision for Destino was finally realized in 2003 when Disney's nephew Roy revived the film and worked with Disney Studios to turn it into a 6-minute animated short. Destino showcased Dalí's surrealist style blended with Disney animation, bringing together two creative icons decades after their initial collaboration. 8. Dalí would draw on the backs of checks to avoid paying restaurant bills. Even though he lived an extravagant lifestyle, the surrealist artist was not always keen on footing the lofty bills that came with such luxury. Dalí's sneaky technique to avoid payment was to write out a check for the meal, then turn it over and swiftly sketch an original drawing or doodle on the back. Since nobody could pass up the opportunity to take home a bona fide Dalí artwork, the restaurants rarely cashed those checks. Instead, they preserved them as prized relics with the artist's impromptu scribbles, essentially letting Dalí and his party dine for free. 9. His extravagant taste extended to his choice of pets. Dalí had an ocelot named Bebu, whom he would bring to restaurants and social gatherings on a studded leash and collar. When dining with Bebu in New York, a frightened patron was reassured by Dalí that the ocelot was simply painted over in an op art design. Dalí's pampered pet reflected his flamboyant personality. In fact, the character Cheryl in the cartoon Archer has an ocelot named Bebu, likely inspired by Dalí's iconic cat. The surrealist artist maintained his lavish and eccentric lifestyle, even with the animals he kept by his side, treating Bebu the ocelot to a life as unique as his own. 10. Dalí aimed to get kicked out of art school, and he succeeded. Dalí's time at Spain's Academia de San Fernando Art School was short-lived. He was first expelled in 1923 after being accused of inciting a student protest when painter Daniel Velázquez Diaz was denied a professorship. However, Dalí was readmitted in 1926, only to be expelled once more when he boldly proclaimed the judges assessing him were not competent enough to judge his talent. While defiant and cocky, Dalí's ploy achieved his aim. He wanted to be thrown out to make a statement. The young artist, who already saw himself as a master, had no interest in formal instruction. Dalí's ego thrived on controversy, and he got his wish by willfully goading the Art Academy into expelling him not just once, but twice. Please support and show appreciation by hitting super thanks. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. We appreciate you being part of our community. Until next time, take care and stay awesome.